My name is Paige Sevits, and I will be talking about how we should manage guns in the US. According to BBC News, Americans own 120.5 guns per 100 citizens. This means that there are more guns in America than there are people. This brings to the table the question of how do we manage all the guns in America. It is important to educate yourself on this debate since it is a very important topic in America. Gun violence is the problem. The topic of whether or not we should have stricter gun laws in America is the issue I will be talking about. I find this topic to be interesting and important since I have grown up in a time where guns and gun violence is so evident in our society. Because we have instant access to current events and what is happening currently, we are constantly hearing about deaths or injuries from gun violence on the news, and I hope that after hearing my speech, you will be able to take an educated stance on which side you believe in more. In my speech today, I will talk about the history of guns and the current gun laws, gun control and the push for more gun laws, and gun rights and the push for less gun laws. I will start with explaining the current laws and giving some historical background information. In simple terms, the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution says that any U.S. citizen has the right to bear arms. This means that anyone who is old enough is allowed to own and carry a gun. According to the journal Gun Law History in the United States and Second Amendment Rights, in the case of District of Columbia versus Heller, the Supreme Court ruled that average citizens have a constitutional right to possess handguns for personal self-protection in the home. In the same court case, they also said that it was subject to an array of legal restrictions, including prohibitions on the possession of firearms by felons and the mentally ill, or laws forbidding the carrying of firearms in sensitive places. These places include schools and government buildings. This court case took place in 2008 and is the most recent law regarding guns in the U.S. When the U.S. Constitution was written, it was a very different time. There were constant wars and very few laws about how Americans were allowed to live their lives. The Second Amendment is also a huge reason as to why the two sides of this debate are still fighting over how to manage the vast number of guns in the U.S. Now that you have some background information on the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and the history of guns in America, let's jump into the two sides of the debate. I'll begin with talking about gun control and the push for stricter laws. Gun control is defined as the regulation of the sale and use of firearms. Advocates for stricter gun laws argue that stricter gun laws will lower the rates of violence in the U.S. According to the article, The Pros and Cons of Background Checks and Gun Control Measures, 90% of the American people support universal background checks, and they support extreme protection orders. Advocates for stricter gun laws also think that laws like Florida's red flag statute should be enacted nationwide. A red flag statute is a law that enables police or family members to petition for the temporary removal of a firearm from a potentially dangerous person. According to the article, The Pros and Cons of Background Checks and Gun Control Measures, Blumenthal states it saves lives, it prevents suicides, it helps stop domestic violence that can lead to fatality. These laws work. Advocates for stricter gun laws believe in laws like the red flag statute because they do not want firearms in the hands of people who are mentally unstable. Blumenthal also says medical research tells us that 80% of the perpetrators of mass violence exhibit clear signs that they are going to carry out an attack. The article, The Case for Gun Policy Reforms in America, Webster states, weaknesses in current gun laws contribute to this burden by establishing low standards for legal gun ownership and significant loopholes in policies designed to keep guns from prohibited persons. Advocates also say that guns are not guaranteed to us. They are a privilege and not a right. The journal titled Gun Control says that owning guns is not a fundamental interest, which therefore shows that we are not guaranteed to personally own guns. Overall, there are a number of reasons why someone would advocate for stricter gun laws. Now I'll cover gun rights and what advocates of gun rights believe. Gun rights is defined as the right for people to possess weapons. Some advocates for gun rights believe that gun violence has little to do with guns and more to do with America's lack of religion overall. According to the article Gun Control in the Crosshairs, Christian Nationalism in Opposition to Stricter Gun Laws, Whitehead states, school shootings and mass casualty gun violence have little to do with guns per se and more to do with how American culture has abandoned its reliance on Christianity and the Christian God. Advocates for gun rights say that the rate of violence in the U.S. won't be affected if we put stricter gun laws into place. From the article Gun Control, La Follette states gun control will not virtually eliminate murder. La Follette also states, as the National Rifle Association puts it, guns don't kill people, people do. In one sense, their claim is uncontroversial. Murder is the act of an agent, and guns are not agents. There could also be a trend in the demographics of the people who own guns. The article Why Own a Gun? Protection is Now a Top Reason states that the majority of people who own guns in the U.S. are overwhelmingly white and male. This article also states that men are 3 times as likely as women to personally own a gun. Another demographic of people is Republicans versus Democrats. Dimick states Republicans are far more likely than Democrats to own guns. Another reason why so many people advocate for gun rights is because they feel safer with a gun. In the article, Why Own a Gun? Protection is Now Top Reason, Dimmick says, the vast majority of gun owners say that having a gun makes them feel safer. According to the same article, 48% of gun owners say they own a gun for personal protection. Overall, there are a number of reasons why somebody would want to own a gun or advocate for less gun laws. In conclusion, the debate on gun control versus gun rights is a tricky one. Guns exist for a reason, but this debate focuses on whether or not we need guns as heavily as we have them in the U.S. Advocates for stricter gun laws believe that guns are not guaranteed to us and that the violence rate in the U.S. will decrease if we had stricter gun laws. Advocates for gun rights believe that violence rates in the U.S. will not decrease by having stricter gun laws and that they feel safer owning a gun. I hope that all of you are able to establish your own opinion on gun rights versus gun control and which one would better help the U.S.